it's an exploitative business model. It forces these sensitive wild animals into repeated, traumatic, and dangerous encounters with people.
I still have nightmares about the things that I saw there.
Wild animals don't want to be poked and prodded by the public, but that's SeaQuest's entire business model.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sid, and in today's video I am going to be talking about the chain mall aquariums SeaQuest. But don't let them being called an aquarium fool you, because they have so many other animals other than aquatic life. They have reptiles, exotic mammals, and farm animals, and pretty much all of them are struggling. I have made one other video on SeaQuest, and the response to that video was something I wasn't expecting at all. I have never received so many DMs or emails from previous employees telling me and showing me about how bad the conditions were and are at SeaQuest. They provided me with stories, photos, and videos of what it was like for the animals there. So that, among many other things, is what I am going to be getting into in this video. But first, I would like to get into today's sponsor, Aura. I'm sure everybody has received spam emails and robocalls and wondered how they got your contact details to begin with. They got it because data brokers are making fortunes selling your information. The good thing about Aura is that they can identify the data brokers exposing your personal information and submit opt-out requests on your behalf. Brokers are legally required to remove your information if you ask them to, but of course they don't make it easy. But with Aura it is easy because they handle all of the back and forth for you. And apps like Aura have never been more important when there are massive data breaches happening all of the time. Due to a recent breach at AT&T, the information of 73 million customers was leaked onto the dark web, and Aura does so much more to protect you and your family from the online threats you can't see. Just with their one app, you can get things like parental controls, antivirus, a VPN, and so much more. It's all in the one place, and you get everything at one affordable price. Data brokers are constantly trying to work out new information about you, like where you live. So if you want to get ahead of that, go to aura.com/sid to start your 2-week free trial. Also linked at the top of the description box. So to start off with, the SeaQuest location in Littleton, Colorado closed down in February of this year, 2024. In a social media post, they announced they would be closing. According to the CEO, Vince Covino, the most important thing is profit, so I guess it just wasn't profitable anymore.
Profit margin is the bottom line. Literally, it's the bottom line. Is how much money am I making?
But in SeaQuest's statement, they did say they will still continue to operate in states where their interactive business model is supported. And it doesn't surprise me that they didn't feel supported in Colorado, because the Colorado Fish and Wildlife were probably the most strictest on them out of all of the states they're located in. They revoked their license at one point and didn't let SeaQuest get away with as much as other states have. And in a separate post, SeaQuest had this to say for what was going to happen to the animals at the closed down location.
During this transition, we will be safely relocating our animals. Their care and well-being remain an utmost priority for SeaQuest.
But that was questionable, because when the location in Trumbull, Connecticut closed down in August 2023, it didn't seem like the animals were much of a priority at all. SeaQuest currently has 7 locations, but when they were at their peak, they had 10 locations. And whenever a location would close down, all of the other locations would absorb the animals from the closed down location. But for over a month after the Trumbull location had been closed down, a whole bunch of animals were left behind in the mall. Apparently weather caused the big delay of transferring the animals, and the USDA media contact said that SeaQuest cancelled their license on September 8th before the animals had been transferred. That meant that they weren't under USDA regulation anymore. So basically there was no longer any sort of regulatory authority overseeing these animals to ensure that they were relocated safe and sound. But I'm sure some of those animals would have much preferred to have stayed in that mall than to be sent to another SeaQuest. Not only are the conditions horrible at all of the SeaQuest locations, but just the transportation of the animals is very risky. When SeaQuest was transporting a capybara in a dog carrier in the open bed of a pickup truck with a tailgate that didn't close, the capybara managed to escape and jump out of the moving vehicle. It was badly injured and SeaQuest was fined $100 because of that. And thanks to some leaked audio from a meeting with Vince, he said that a sloth arrived to them on its deathbed after transportation and then died shortly after.
We lost a sloth last night.
What?
Yeah.
New Jersey?
Yeah. He came in on his deathbed.
And according to these text messages between staff members, a capybara died in a U-Haul due to extreme heat conditions. So fortunately, the animals from the closed down Littleton, Colorado location weren't going to be transported to another SeaQuest location. The Denver Zoo rescued over 100 animals from that location.
SeaQuest in Southwest Plaza closed earlier this month after many citations and complaints over animal treatment and injuries to customers. But that left all the animals there in need of a new home. The Denver Zoo rescued about 130 of them. You're looking at some of the pictures of them.
They announced on their social media that they are proud to have rescued the animals from SeaQuest, which received multiple citations and concerns around animal welfare and injuries to customers. And SeaQuest was not happy about that announcement. They took to their social media to say that a zoo partner made a false public statement, implying that they had abandoned their animals and they were forced to step in and help. SeaQuest then explained their side of the story. They said they had to close after not being able to financially recover from COVID, and while some of the animals they had were worth $6,000 to $12,000, they decided to donate them to the Denver Zoo. They also said the truth is that SeaQuest animals receive top-of-the-line husbandry care, and they said their animals will never need to be rescued. But in actuality, a lot of their animals do need rescuing. While all of the locations have similar problems, I am now going to get into some of the ones at the Folsom, California location. For starters, it is very clear that the animals do not want to be there. Because a hedgehog was pacing back and forth in its tank so much, it rubbed off a layer of its skin on its nose, causing it to bleed all over its tank. A porcupine also endlessly scratches at the walls of its enclosure, and it's done it so much that it's scratched away parts of the green wall. But the cages the animals don't damage from their stressed behaviors will more than likely just fall apart on their own anyway. The ceiling leaks every time it rains, and animals somehow get a hold of bits and pieces of building materials, like this kookaburra holding a screw, and this lizard has a piece of wire embedded in its foot. And those aren't the only foreign objects ending up in these cages. The animals' main source of food is what the public gives them, and the way the public gives them food is by using tokens to get food from gumball machines. But if people don't want to use their tokens on food for the animals, then there are also gumball machines with little toys in them. And these toys will also sometimes end up with the animals. And what poses a safety risk to not only the animals but also the staff is how infested the cages and back rooms are with bugs. Animal food bowls, substrate, and the back area are absolutely teeming with all sorts of insects. So for some reason, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife placed an injured Patagonian cavy at the SeaQuest in Folsom. SeaQuest put a cage for it in their capybara enclosure. The capybara were brother and sister named Wesley and Buttercup.
We are here at SeaQuest Folsom and we have some new animals
Wesley and the female, they are actually siblings. They are capybaras.
But 5 months after being cramped in that small cage, the Patagonian cavy died. And that actually happened as a result of a botched neutering. And then Buttercup, the capybara, also died. She underwent surgery for a tumor removal, but was given too much anesthesia and never woke up. And to this day, Wesley is the only capybara there, which is unfortunate because capybara are known for being highly social animals, forming family groups of up to 10 to 20, and it's surprising that SeaQuest hasn't put another capybara with Wesley, considering they usually love to cram full every tank or cage with as many animals as possible, sometimes even mixing different species together.
Look closely at this photo. A caiman with a turtle in its mouth as it drowned. Two animals employees say should not have shared a tank.
They've housed adult bearded dragons together where territorial fights break out, and the vet they were using at the time instructed them to separate the bearded dragons on 2 occasions. They also housed Uromastyx together in a small cage. Both females and males are very territorial, and a quick Google search will tell you that there should only be one per enclosure. But of course, SeaQuest doesn't do that, and fights often broke out amongst their Uromastyx. And this was a common trend for a lot of reptiles at SeaQuest. The location in Woodbridge, New Jersey housed a whole bunch of very territorial Madagascar day geckos together, which resulted in some pretty serious injuries. They also cohabited a skink and tortoise in an open air exhibit, and when it came time for the skink to try and shed its skin, it was very difficult for it because that kind of enclosure couldn't hold in much humidity, so that made it really difficult for the skin to come off, which cut off the circulation to some of its toes, which ultimately caused its toes to fall off. And because they have so many parakeets that rely on food from customers to be fed, they have to crowd around and fight with one another to get some food.
Hey guys, I'm pulling this parakeet. I think it's a baby, but like it keeps closing its eyes and stuff. Melissa said that it was getting picked on and stepped on and stuff by the other birds.
Yesterday I caught one of the other bluebirds sitting on top of him and biting his neck, so they definitely are bullying him and he wasn't getting enough food.
And behavior like that is a very easy way for disease and parasites to spread quickly.
This bird, we put him in a carrier. He's like, he wasn't opening his eyes. He was sitting on the floor, heavy breathing, everything. He just doesn't look good. And as you can see, that's his cloaca. So overall, just not looking too good.
Hey guys, so one of the guest services team members found this parakeet. She said that he was really bloody. His beak was bloody and he was eating his own foot. He actually, like, literally ate off his nail.
I looked back again and he flew in a circle and hit the wall and fell down.
During a couple of months in 2021 that the staff called the parakeet plague, parakeets just kept dropping dead. There was blood in their feces and they displayed various symptoms of sickness, but the parakeet interaction and exhibit remained open to the public. Earlier this year, ABC investigated SeaQuest, and they allowed SeaQuest to respond to some of the things they were told by former staff members. And SeaQuest's response to the parakeet plague was that thorough tests and necropsies were conducted to determine what was wrong with the birds, and they found no evidence of disease among the parakeets. But according to staff, the birds were only tested for bacteria, when they could have had a virus, parasite, or something fungal. But fortunately, the mass die-off ended when they started giving the birds some supplements, and that is just one of the many issues at the Woodbridge location. Unlike other states, New Jersey is a no-contact state, meaning that it is illegal for SeaQuest visitors to hold regulated exotic and non-game wildlife. So this location doesn't have as many exotic animals because they're not allowed to be handled, and that is kind of the whole point of SeaQuest. They have had sloths and Asian small-clawed otters, which are regulated species that they allow guests to see without direct interaction, but because of the restrictions they have a lot more non-exotic animals, or a lot more animals that would be considered farm animals. The ducks they've had there have had endless issues. When they were alive, they lived on the edge of a pond, constantly on a hard surface. So it isn't surprising that they had non-stop problems with their feet and legs. One duck named Gray couldn't walk properly.
We have another duck that is not using his legs. He's standing on it now, but he's like refusing to walk.
But as you can see, when she gets up, she can't really stand on her feet.
And another duck named Phoebe had bumblefoot, which is a direct cause of being housed on a hard surface.
She falls. Here, sweetheart, I know, I'm sorry. I just need you to walk us a little bit. Oh, baby, I'm sorry.
And the ducks also started eating the drywall. And there were also issues with their chickens not being able to move properly.
She's pretty lethargic. She doesn't want to stand up. Every time I try, she just kind of sloops back down.
While those ducks and that chicken weren't able to be rescued, there were some animals that were rescued. At the start of 2020, a goat rescue named Goats of Anarchy made a Facebook post about the 3 goats at the SeaQuest Woodbridge location. They mentioned how they were kept in a dark, tiny cement prison cell, and at the end they asked SeaQuest to end their goat exhibit and retire the goats to Goats of Anarchy. And during this time, SeaQuest was also being massively protested. Hundreds of people were against how these animals were being kept.
Protesters alleging a lack of supervision inside SeaQuest, along with overcrowding and dirty drinking water for the animals.
And then SeaQuest did something unexpected and gave the goats to Goats of Anarchy and closed their goat exhibit. But then SeaQuest did something expected, which was reopen their goat exhibit 4 years later. And this time it was with a mother and her kid. They let busy crowds of people interact with them, and while they still live in the mall, they now take them on walks outside occasionally. So after witnessing all of that, it's really no surprise that so many former staff members have spoken out against SeaQuest, and when they started doing that, Vince was not happy. He sent this threatening email to a staff member saying he would bankrupt them and drag them through the mud, and that he is getting really close to serving a lawsuit. He did not want any information spoken about outside of the workplace, and if someone did talk, then they were at risk of termination.
Our Minneapolis reporter acquired this internal video. It was sent to SeaQuest employees in Roseville after a power outage caused a fish to die. Covino says it was due to sabotage, but the company says they didn't file a police report.
We don't talk about these things outside of the team. Apparently that happened this morning. It's very important. It's very sensitive. Could lead to termination.
Vince started requiring staff members to sign an NDA as a condition of employment. By signing the NDA, they agreed to keep all proprietary information confidential and would not aid or encourage other former or current employees to share any proprietary info. Proprietary information is pretty much information that is sensitive and not for public disclosure. But the thing about SeaQuest is that there really isn't much proprietary information left. How they operate and the way they treat their animals has been documented widely across many avenues. The animal rights organization People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, also known as PETA, has done undercover investigations and then published them online. They've also made several posts online compiling incidents reported to them by staff members and customers, but their biggest compilation of incidents at SeaQuest is the lengthy complaint they put together for the Federal Trade Commission. They have also filed multiple requests to the USDA to terminate SeaQuest's Animal Welfare Act license, and they've reported animal attacks at SeaQuest directly to the USDA.
After an employee tries to direct a wallaby to eat from the boy's hand, it lunges at the child's face. PETA reported it to the USDA, and when government inspectors followed up, SeaQuest was cited for handling the wallaby in a manner which posed a risk of harm to the animal and the public.
And all of that is public information that can be found through a Google search, so there's not too much proprietary information left at SeaQuest. And Vince's threat of legal action hasn't been enough to stop former staff members from speaking out. Staff have continued to speak out against SeaQuest.
Some were interviewed by ABC's affiliate stations without showing their faces. They say they signed a confidentiality agreement and are worried SeaQuest will retaliate.
At any point, did you feel guilty?
Every day. One former staff member, Lana Westbrook, made a private Facebook group called SeaQuest Employees Unite, which was made up of 80 former and current employees. And that is quite a lot of staff members who want to blow the whistle. But one actually didn't and leaked some of the information in that group to Vince. That prompted him to send Lana a cease and desist in September 2023. In the cease and desist, it showed a screenshot of a post that Lana made where she said she had a long phone call with national ABC producers about the investigation they were conducting. She said even with the NDA in place, she was certain she'd be able to be interviewed for it, but first wanted to ask her lawyer to make sure. But she was first making that post in that Facebook group to help ABC get documents and interviews. And also in the cease and desist was a screenshot of a reply that she made to her post wanting the people who were furloughed during COVID and not hired back, and also any documentation on animals that died during COVID. The cease and desist said the damages caused by Lana's actions may exceed 100K, and if she doesn't stop, they will have no choice but to protect themselves against her supposed defamatory and damaging behavior. And then Vince and his lawyers proceeded with the lawsuit for Lana supposedly breaching her NDA. And then the Animal Activist Legal Defend Fund stepped in to help Lana.
But their real concern is that their actual practices are that sunlight is actually, being shined on their actual practices, as opposed to any of their employees doing anything wrongful.
Now, in court this afternoon, a lawyer for SeaQuest said the company was not trying to chill anyone's First Amendment rights. And in just the last hour, an Idaho judge denied the motion to throw out that lawsuit against the former SeaQuest employee. So at least for now, the case will move forward.
Nothing has been resolved as of yet, but so far, SeaQuest's attorneys have asked for an extension 3 times, and 3 times the judge has asked SeaQuest to provide the NDA that Lana signed, and they still haven't been able to provide it. All they have is an affidavit from the CFO of SeaQuest saying that Lana did sign an NDA, and at one point all of the documents had to be amended because Lana isn't even her legal name. Lana is just a nickname. So yeah, they are a mess. And hopefully that when a verdict is reached, it is in favor of Lana, because I really don't think anyone should be in favor of SeaQuest. It's not good for the animals, the public, or the staff. The whole interactive experience has such a negative impact on the animals there.
USDA regulations, each animal is supposed to have breaks. There was no real breaks. They booked them back to back to back to back.
This makes animals anxious, she says, like a wallaby that would not stop shaking.
And oftentimes, because they let people walk around, the kids would stomp on the birds and kill them.
They had smaller turtles that were given to kids essentially to handle. I think they started with 12. By the time I left, they had 3. I know some were actually crushed by kids.
They told us to no longer feed the iguanas, that the guests were going to do primarily all of the feeding for the iguanas.
In September 2023, APS got a complaint about an emaciated iguana. It had to be euthanized in December after SeaQuest's veterinarian determined it had eaten gravel that caused a blockage in its digestive tract.
Apparently guests were saying that the sharks weren't eating out of their hands and they were upset by that, so they reduced the sharks' feedings from 5 times a day, which is proper, to 3 times a week. And the sharks started to try to bite guests.
And it is very risky for the public.
Medical records filed in this September 2023 lawsuit show a local 3-year-old child had to go to Sunrise Hospital's emergency room after a shark latched onto his elbow during a feeding encounter.
Helen DeMore Callejas telling ABC her daughter was bitten by a grouper at SeaQuest in Texas.
And it is very clear that it takes a very big toll on the staff, considering that so many of them speak out once they've left SeaQuest. So I've set up a few automated emails to send them to those in power who could make a change to help SeaQuest be shut down. The links to those will be in the description box. And if those people don't want to shut down SeaQuest, then feel free to share this video so that we can try and shut down SeaQuest, because the more people that know about how awful SeaQuest actually is, the less likely they are going to go to SeaQuest. Anyways, that is pretty much everything for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and let's take a moment of silence for all of the animals still stuck in a SeaQuest. And I will see you in my next video.